What's up, everybody? My name is Tucker. In today's video, we're going to be talking about some new Ben Simmons news. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like rating on it. Check out my socials in the description as well. And let's go ahead and get started. So we haven't talked about the Ben Simmons stuff in a while, but there are some new rumors that have popped up that I think are relevant and interesting. Since the last time that we talked about Simmons, which has been a couple of weeks, it's been kind of a disaster for him, for the team, just all around. It's been an issue. He returned to the team, surprisingly, almost out of nowhere. Tried to return to the team, tried to practice, got kicked out of practice, got suspended, got fined, is now basically refusing to follow the return to play structure that Philly has put together because he told the team that he wasn't mentally ready to play. So they're attempting to put things in place to help make it easier for him to return to play. And it kind of seems like he's just slow playing all those things because he still has no intention of ever playing in a game for Philadelphia again. And it's just this weird back and forth where Simmons has put himself in a position where he has no control over his situation at all. I think that for like 90% of the teams in the NBA, what Simmons did, it would have worked because it has worked for almost every single star, with the exception of him, if you do consider him a star, when it comes to, I have multiple years left in my contract, or I'm an impending free agent, I would like to go somewhere else, please trade me. The problem was he chose the wrong franchise to do it against, because Daryl Morey understood the position that he was in. He understood the leverage that he had with Simmons still having 4 years left on his contract. And the organization itself understood that they had no reason to give in to his trade demand and get back anything less than fair value in exchange for him, which has led to a situation that seemingly has no resolution. But the rumors we're going to be talking about today are specifically some things mentioned about Simmons possibly being sent to Boston. Now, on the surface, this is already very weird because no matter how you slice it, whatever version of this trade you come up with, if it's a one-to-one trade and it's Simmons to Boston in exchange for stuff, no matter how it looks, it's an odd and a strange fit, because what Simmons wants reportedly is to go somewhere where he's the focal point. He's the guy, he's surrounded by shooters, and everything runs through him. Well, that's obviously not going to be the case in Boston because they have Jaylen Brown and they have Jason Tatum, and already they have two wings that you could start to maybe question their fit together a little bit based off how poorly Boston has played to begin this season. And so then adding another wing into that equation, and one that can't shoot, and one that wants to have the ball in his hands all the time, none of that really makes any sense whatsoever. But Shams reported this, and he made it seem like Boston had real, legitimate conversations with Philadelphia. Now, granted, that could have just been leaked to him. That could have been Daryl Morey's way of trying to stir up some more trade rumors. It could have been Clutch's way of trying to stir up more trade rumors, trying to get more people interested. You never know. You always kind of have to read between the lines with these kinds of things. Now, if it was one or the other of those things, whether it be Clutch or Morey, I wouldn't be surprised because, again, Simmons has put himself in kind of a nightmare scenario. He doesn't have any leverage to force his way out. He initially said that he didn't care how much he got fined, how much money he lost out on. That is obviously not the case. They called his bluff, and he has tried to return to the team. He is still apparently, not really being paid because he hasn't really returned to the team. And he can either suck it up and return to play for Philadelphia, which I don't think he has any real intention of doing. He can just not play and sit around. He can get fined if he screws up and doesn't follow this return to play strategy Philly has in place. And beyond that, I don't even know what the end game is. So throwing out these kinds of rumors makes sense. And I think that's really the core of this, is there's something behind this. There's some kind of, some kind of agenda behind throwing these kinds of rumors out, because on the surface, they really don't make sense. Now, Shams went on to say that reportedly, this is the best part, Philly wants Jaylen Brown back in exchange for Ben Simmons. And we've gotten accustomed to throughout this entire process, hearing some crazy trade demands from Daryl Morey in exchange for Ben Simmons. We've heard about him asking for all-stars and multiple future first-round picks and all these other things. And it's not necessarily surprising that he would ask for Jaylen Brown in exchange for Ben Simmons, but seriously, Ben Simmons is a flawed player, a guy that's not currently, in his own words, mentally ready to play at the moment. He had an awful postseason. He doesn't really fit in all but a handful of situations around the league. He quit on his team multiple times and is currently sitting at home. You have no idea if he's actually, worked on his game this offseason, anything about his offseason regimen, because it has been filled with just him trying to get his way out of Philadelphia. And Daryl Morey wants one of the best young wings in the entire league in exchange for that player. Again, it's not surprising, but it's still crazy when you hear it kind of spelled out like that. And like, it does make a little bit of sense to hear some rumors here about Boston trying to shake up the roster, given how their season has started. They're not playing particularly well, and you could make the argument that in the time in which it has been Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum's team, it has not gone particularly well. And the fit there seems questionable, given that these guys are not elite playmakers. It's something we've talked about in the past in comparison to them and like Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. Like, does it work? Can you have a really good offense that gets everybody involved, that doesn't have people like Marcus Smart saying publicly that these guys need to pass the ball, he wants to feel more involved in the offense? If you don't have a true initiator, playmaker type guy, maybe the roster works if you have a true point guard on the roster, which Ben Simmons is not. But unless one of the wings is someone like Luka, do two wings like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum work well together? I think that is a question worth exploring. However, we are at least, in my opinion, a year or more away from exploring that theory turning into possibly trading away one of those two young, talented players. Unless there is a huge issue between those two guys personally off the court, or it becomes much more of a disaster on the court. I don't see any scenario in which Boston is looking at Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum as a realistic trade piece in exchange for Ben Simmons or most of the players in the league. Now, if we just take at face value this like Jaylen Brown for Simmons thing, it doesn't make a ton of sense. However, maybe there's a trade package here where it's like Marcus Smart and stuff, and you involve these other teams, and then potentially you start to see a trade package that comes together for Ben Simmons. But I just don't think there's any realistic way that happens because it doesn't fit in Boston. And Daryl Morey has continually made it clear that he wants fair and at times above fair value in exchange for Simmons, even given the circumstances around the situation. And so ultimately, this doesn't really help us come to any more of a conclusion about what's going to happen with Simmons. To me, this reads like someone that had a different agenda, leaking something to Shams, him reporting it. And I don't know who that would be or what the reason necessarily would be for that, but it's clear in my opinion that Simmons still doesn't really have any intention of playing for Philadelphia, and what he's trying to do and what Clutch is trying to do for him right now is make sure that he is taken care of in some way financially, that he is still, getting paid by the team in some capacity while also not actually being ready to play basketball games so that he will eventually get moved. Because in this moment, at this point in the regular season, there's no reason for Daryl Morey to trade Ben Simmons. The team is playing well. They can get through the regular season and win 50 games relatively easily, even without Simmons. And only once we get to the postseason, a part of the year in which Ben Simmons has typically struggled, however, he would certainly help them defensively, things like that. Only once we get there and Simmons' absence legitimately threatens their chance to possibly make the conference finals or make the NBA finals, only in that moment would there be leverage on Simmons' side to get a bit of a trade working here. But at that point, of course, he can't be traded. So until we get to like February and closer to the trade deadline, where maybe that scenario becomes a little bit more at the forefront of the minds of someone like Daryl Morey, it doesn't really seem like there's a resolution to this. Like, Simmons is going to have to keep slow playing it. He's going to try and get paid while also not being ready to play, because I just can't imagine a scenario in which, after everything that's gone on, after a long drawn out process of him trying to get out, him basically, swearing off the city, and then him actually getting on the court again in front of the Philadelphia fans, I don't envision that happening. So I think that he's just trying to find a way where he can check all the boxes. He can not play for the team again. He can get traded eventually and then also get paid and not get fined a ton while he's doing it. I don't know how he's possibly going to walk that tightrope all the way down it, but I don't know. Like I said, he just chose the wrong team. He chose the wrong team to try and do this to. I think it would have worked in a lot of different scenarios, and the fact that it hasn't could potentially scare off some guys in the future when it comes to requesting a trade. Someone like Karl-Anthony Towns that has multiple years left on his contract, maybe he sticks around for longer because he knows that if he requests a trade, it doesn't get moved. There's a precedent here for what to do if a guy that doesn't really have the leverage of impending free agency says that he wants to leave and asks out and wants to be traded. So ultimately, I think that's the lesson here, the Simmons thing, and the Celtics rumors specifically are ultimately probably just another bit of rumors, another small bit of news that in terms of an actual conclusion to the Simmons situation doesn't really tell us anything. So yeah, that's going to be the end of today's video, and I thank you guys very much for watching. Once again, my name is Tucker. If you missed any of my previous videos, be sure to check out the boxes on screen as well, and as I said, leave a like rating on it if you enjoyed it. Once again, my name is Tucker. Hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you all next time.